We have all seen characters sneak around in the dark before. But the moment I saw Ethan sneaking into the PCPD, frantically rummaging through those dusty, unsolved case files, my heart just sank straight into my stomach. I wasn't ready for that. I thought I knew exactly where this narrative was heading. I thought this was just about Ethan trying to cover his tracks, maybe doing some light damage control for his past mistakes regarding Delilah. But that changed everything. The sheer crushing gravity of what unfolded in those dimly lit archives completely shattered my expectations. It wasn't just a simple break-in to hide some evidence. It was the brutal, unapologetic unraveling of a man's entire reality right before our very eyes. And I am still struggling to process the absolute emotional devastation of that scene. You know that visceral feeling when a show pulls the rug out from under you so violently that you are left staring at the screen with your mouth wide open, completely unable to articulate what just happened? That was exactly me. I was literally yelling at my television, completely absorbed in the chaos. The revelation that the PCPD files had been meticulously altered years ago wasn't even the biggest shock of the episode. It was the crushing, suffocating realization that Ethan isn't just fighting some random low-level corrupt cops. He is up against a massive, deeply entrenched old WSB network, the terrifying reach of gens, and someone we all thought was dead and buried long ago. I genuinely wasn't expecting that. My mind is still racing, furiously trying to connect the dots, but the emotional weight of seeing Ethan, our charming, usually unflappable, quick-witted Ethan, look so utterly broken, defeated, and terrified is something I simply cannot shake from my mind. I keep thinking about the haunting look in his eyes when the terrifying truth finally hit him. This wasn't just a clever plot twist designed to boost ratings. It was a character assassination of the best, most agonizingly dramatic kind, stripping away everything Ethan thought he knew about himself in his past, the absolute horror of realizing your own memories have been tampered with. It is a psychological nightmare scenario that I wouldn't wish on anyone. I am sitting here days later, and my heart is still pounding in my chest for him. The emotional toll of this specific storyline is completely off the charts, and I feel like I need a dedicated support group just to talk about the immense psychological torture they are putting Ethan through right now. Let's talk about exactly why this hit so incredibly hard, because we have to look back at Ethan and his long, complicated history on this show. We have known this character for years. We intimately know his flaws, his rogue tendencies, his charming grifter persona that he uses as a shield against the world. But beneath all of that bravado and sarcasm, Ethan has always had a fiercely loyal, beating heart, especially when it comes to the people he loves most. So finding out that he was tracking a horrific, sprawling human trafficking and baby swap ring and that sweet, innocent Phoebe is just one tiny vulnerable link in this massive, sickening chain is absolutely gut-wrenching. It completely recontextualizes every single thing he has been doing lately. He isn't just trying to hide a dirty secret. He is trying to navigate a profound trauma that is so much bigger, darker, and more dangerous than himself. But the part that absolutely destroyed me, the part that had me reaching for the tissues, was the tragic connection to the late Delilah. Just saying her name brings up so much unresolved pain and sorrow for longtime viewers. We all watched that unimaginable tragedy unfold on our screens, and we all saw the heavy, suffocating guilt Ethan carried on his shoulders afterward. But to find out that his memory was literally overwritten by the WSB, to discover that the secret missions he thought he was executing of his own free will were actually pre-programmed commands implanted deep in his brain, it makes me physically sick to my stomach. He indirectly pushed Delilah into the very danger that violently claimed her life, and he didn't even know it. He was nothing but a puppet. The WSB turned him into an unwitting weapon against the woman he loved, and realizing that terrifying fact alongside him was one of the most painful, heartbreaking viewing experiences I have ever had as a dedicated fan. I can't help feeling that the writers have reached into the absolute darkest, most vulnerable parts of his psyche and pulled out his absolute worst fears for everyone to see. He is no longer just a determined man hunting for the truth. He has become the prey, desperately trying to claw back his own shattered identity from the shadows. The realization that Phoebe, who might very well be his and Delilah's biological daughter, could have been callously swapped in this monstrous trafficking ring is a level of cruelty I simply wasn't prepared to process. Every single time I think about Ethan realizing his entire life, his choices, his fatal mistakes were orchestrated by a faceless shadow organization, my heart breaks all over again. It is a profound, unforgivable violation of his agency, and it makes the senseless tragedy of Delilah's death 1,000 times worse than we ever initially thought. Now, I love this storyline. I really, truly do. I love that Ethan is finally, after all this time, getting a massive front and center narrative that deeply utilizes his complex, mysterious background. The intricate spy thriller elements, the secret, cryptic codes left behind by Delilah, the hidden, dangerous network lurking in the shadows, it is classic, high-stakes daytime drama at its absolute finest. And it is keeping me on the absolute edge of my seat every single day. Seeing him forced into this dark, twisting labyrinth where he has to violently confront the literal ghosts of his past is incredibly compelling. Top tier television that reminds me why I fell in love with this show in the first place. But something still bothers me, and I have to get it off my chest. I have to admit, as much as I am glued to the screen, unable to look away, there is a deep, simmering frustration bubbling up inside me regarding the WSB memory wipe trope. We have seen the WSB do horrific, unforgivable things over the decades, but completely erasing and overriding Ethan's fundamental autonomy feels like a massive narrative cheat. I want Ethan to own his mistakes. I want his ultimate redemption to come from acknowledging his own human flaws and bad decisions, not just blaming a microscopic chip or a hypnotic suggestion implanted by corrupt, nameless agents. Taking away his free will and the tragedy surrounding Delilah almost cheapens the immense, character-defining guilt he has carried all these years. It is a massive, frustrating, double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes him an incredibly sympathetic, tragic victim of a massive, unstoppable conspiracy, making us root for him harder than ever before. On the other hand, it strips away the messy, beautifully human errors that made him such a fascinating, deeply flawed character in the first place. I am completely torn between marveling at the sheer, terrifying scale of this conspiracy involving gens and groaning at the undeniable fact that Ethan's darkest, most defining moments weren't even his own conscious choices. It is undeniably a brilliant plot device to raise the stakes, but emotionally, it leaves me feeling incredibly conflicted, empty, and a little bit cheated out of his true, organic character development. And that brings me directly to his current, highly questionable actions. I understand why he is sneaking around in the dead of night. I deeply understand the primal instinct to handle this massive burden alone, to protect Phoebe by keeping everything buried in the darkest shadows possible. When you find out your own mind has been compromised and violated by the very people who are supposed to be the good guys, who can you possibly trust? The paranoia is completely justified, but I still think that was a massive, potentially fatal mistake. Keeping this explosive secret from Robert and Holly is a guaranteed recipe for absolute, unmitigated disaster. Maybe I'm being entirely unfair, but Ethan is in way, way over his head right now. He is dealing with a ruthless transnational trafficking ring, a resurrected villain with a vendetta, and Jens's deadly far-reaching network. Sneaking into the PCPD and stealing altered, highly sensitive files is reckless, impulsive, and downright stupid, even for someone with his specific skill set. He is operating on fractured, unreliable memories and raw, bleeding emotion, which makes him incredibly dangerous to himself and absolutely everyone around him. If he truly, genuinely wants to protect Phoebe and honor Delilah's memory, he desperately needs backup. He needs the very family he is so stubbornly trying to avoid. Watching him try to frantically decipher Delilah's final cryptic code about another missing child while completely isolated in the dark is just agonizing to witness. He is carrying the crushing weight of the entire world on his shoulders, driven by a toxic, volatile mix of duty, blood ties, and overwhelming, soul-crushing guilt. I literally want to reach through the screen, grab him by the shoulders, and shake him until he realizes he has to stop playing the tragic lone wolf. His stubborn refusal to ask for help isn't noble or heroic anymore. It is a blatant trauma response. And it is absolutely going to get someone else killed if he doesn't wake up and realize he cannot possibly fight the entire WSB and Jens's ghosts all by himself. This is exactly where my internal struggle really peaks, and it is tearing me apart. Part of me desperately wants to believe that Ethan can somehow pull this off. I want to believe that he can brilliantly outsmart the WSB, decode Delilah's intricate message, and save Phoebe without anyone else getting hurt in the crossfire. I deeply want that triumphant, vindicating moment for him. I want him to reclaim his stolen identity, burn the corrupt network to the ground, and prove once and for all that he is so much more than just a programmed, disposable asset. I want him to be the undeniable hero that Delilah always believed he could be. Another part of me thinks he is walking entirely blind into a devastating trap that will destroy him completely and utterly. The agonizing conflict between his moral duty to uncover the truth and his deep blood ties to Phoebe is tearing him apart from the inside out, and frankly, it is tearing me apart as a viewer too. If he bravely exposes the horrifying truth about the baby swap ring to save this other mysterious unknown child, Delilah left a code about he risks blowing Phoebe's entire life wide open and putting her directly in the deadly crosshairs of these absolute monsters. But if he cowardly stays quiet to protect his daughter, he is knowingly condemning another innocent, helpless child to a horrific, unimaginable fate. I honestly can't decide what I want him to do, and the moral ambiguity of this impossible situation is suffocating me. As a passionate fan, you naturally want your favorite characters to make the righteous, heroic choice. But what in the world is the righteous choice here? The devastating scene where he is just staring at those altered files, realizing with dawning horror that he has to choose between protecting Phoebe's fragile secret or exposing the ugly truth to save someone else, is quite possibly the best, most nuanced acting we have seen from him in years. But it leaves me feeling so utterly helpless, drained, and paralyzed as a viewer. I am watching a good man drown in his own manufactured guilt, and there is absolutely no life raft in sight. I am just so emotionally drained and exhausted by all of this back and forth. Every single time I think I finally have a solid handle on how I feel about Ethan's traumatic journey, another dark layer of this twisted WSB conspiracy peels back. And I am left questioning absolutely everything I thought I knew. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like the stakes have never been this devastatingly personal or this incredibly high. It is not just about stopping a generic bad guy anymore. It is about a broken man desperately fighting to prove that his soul, his memories, and his choices are actually his own. I desperately need to know where all of you stand on this massive revelation because my head is completely spinning right now. Am I the only one feeling this way? Am I the only one completely, hopelessly torn between loving the high-stakes drama and absolutely hating what they did to Ethan's tragic past? Do you think he should finally swallow his pride and go to Robert and Holly for help? Or is he actually right to keep this terrifying, world-shattering secret entirely to himself? Guys, what do you think? Please tell me I am not alone in this wild emotional roller coaster, because right now, I feel like I am losing my mind right alongside Ethan.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.